to episode 22 of Discovering Doctor Who. Today is going to be the first, technically it's like episode 0 of season 3, the Christmas special, and it is The Runaway Bride. And this episode was honestly quite a surprise, because coming off of the end of the previous season, as heartbreaking as that ending was, and then that last snippet at the end with Donna, what I know her name now, Donna, appears, and it's just like, what's going on? And of course we found out as this episode takes place immediately after the previous episode ended. So let's get right into my favorite parts of The Runaway Bride. And honestly, my first favorite part of this episode is Donna herself, Donna Noble. Pretty much everything about her. Just the drastic difference in her as a character slash, I guess, kind of companion from the way Rose was. Rose was very willing to go along with the Doctor and was almost sort of becoming like the Doctor near the end of her stint with the show. And Donna is very much just like, she wants nothing to do with the Doctor. For a good portion of the episode, she really wants nothing to do with him, and it's actually kind of refreshing in a way. She actually slaps him in the face twice through the episode, which was hilarious. And her personality was just, I just really liked the way that her character differed from Rose and really brought sort of a breath of fresh air to the show. Although it was unfortunately only for this episode, although I hear that she's going to return later in the show as well, which is cool, and I'm looking forward to. But yeah, just pretty much everything about Donna was awesome. And the second favorite part of this episode was the chase scene. I forget what the robots are actually called, but essentially the robot Santas, one of them kidnaps Donna and takes off in this car, and the Doctor takes chase in the TARDIS. And that whole scene was really fun. A bit tense. I mean, I pretty much assumed that everything was going to turn out okay. But I really liked that whole segment, and the kids that were watching the entire scene unfold, that were just cheering him on. That was, like I said, that was just a really fun moment, and just a part of it that I really liked. Maybe it was a bit too kiddie, or I don't know, I guess it kind of depends on your viewpoint. But like I said, I just really liked that part of the episode. Now, my third favorite part of this episode is Donna's explanation as to how Lance asked her to marry him. And we, of course, end up finding out that it was actually her that begged him and begged him and begged him to marry her. Which, that whole segment was just, it was another part of what I really came to like about Donna and just how different she was, because Rose, I just don't imagine Rose would have been like that. She was very independent, even from the beginning, even though, she was just sort of stuck in her dead-end life at that point. I don't think that she would beg someone to marry her, whereas Donna is obviously very different. Which, Lance is a pretty good-looking guy, so I can't blame her too much. But, it was... that was just the part of the episode that I really liked, and of course turns out to be rather unfortunate. It was something that I kind of guessed, that Lance ended up betraying her, was actually one of the bad guys of the episode. Yeah, that was unfortunate, but again, it's just that whole aspect of it in general was just really funny, and I liked that as her narration went along with the scene. Now, the fourth favorite part of this episode was the Doctor versus the Empress of the Racnoss. And just all of the back and forth there. I just really liked it. And it showed... We get to see some dark sides of the Doctor every now and then, but I can't remember the last time, if it's actually happened, that the Doctor actually got tunnel vision, to the point where it seemed like he was in a trance as to what he was doing. Because when he sent the Christmas tree bombs, or the Christmas ornament bombs, down into the tunnel where the Racnoss were coming up, and essentially filling the entire area full of water, drowning the Racnoss that were coming up, and almost killing the Empress as well. that whole segment was just really intense and really well done. And again, just that tunnel vision that the Doctor had. I mean, I think it was lucky that, you know, Donna was there to sort of snap him out of it, because it seemed like I mean, even once he snapped out of it, he was sort of taken aback because he didn't seem to realize what he was doing, or maybe he realized the gravity of what he was doing, which was essentially kind of committing genocide against a race of aliens that evil, given, you know, they eat flesh, they're horrible things, but essentially destroying an entire race of aliens in pretty much cold blood. I mean, there was he gave the Empress warning given, but still, it was just like very, very dark at that moment. Now, the fifth and final favorite part of this episode is actually the fact that Donna didn't go along. And that may sound weird because, like I said, I like Donna a lot, but I think it was a way of sort of letting this episode be that buffer in between when we've lost Rose and whoever is going to be the next companion. Is like, Donna was a good... Is palate cleanser the right way to put it? I don't know, but it's just because of her drastic difference from Rose, it just really sort of gave you a bit of an adjustment. It's like, okay, we have the Doctor completely separate from Rose, which the only other time that occurred was in Love and Monsters, and that was for like flashback scenes. But for an entire episode or entire hour-long special, we get to experience, you know, this completely different person, and I really like that. And the fact that she is apparently going to return later in the series really does, you know, make me happy, because I really liked her, and I do look forward to seeing more of her. Now, unfortunately, this episode does actually have a few issues, and, well, actually, I'll say that there's probably only one real issue. The other, I actually can't even remember what it was. But the main issue I had with this episode was actually the Empress of the Racnoss. And it's, well, I will say this. On one hand, the movements and the speech pattern of the Empress was very creepy in a way. It was very strange, very alien. So that was something that I could appreciate. I mean, we're people. And as far as we know, there aren't really real aliens. So what do we know what they're going to act like? But I thought that it was just felt like a very appropriate performance from the actress that was acting as the Empress. But the negative part is the design of the Empress. And I know this is going back to my, you know, occasional bashing of the graphics, but when you see the Empress in full body, it just doesn't look good. The graphics just don't look that great, like overly shiny, very like almost PlayStation 1-esque graphics, and I won't rag on about that too much more, but it was just really not that good. Actually, I think probably the best way to compare it is, if you've ever seen, is it the third, or no, it's the second The Mummy movie, where they had The Rock Johnson, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and they had this completely CGI scorpion thing that had a really bad CGI head of him. That was probably the best comparison I can give to this. Admittedly, the Doctor Who version was a little bit better, but more than anything, yeah, it just really didn't look that good. But overall, that was honestly probably my main negative with this episode. Now, I actually had to struggle a little bit over the quotes for this episode, because no one person really said anything that, you know, was quote-worthy. But there was some dialogue in between the Doctor and Donna that I found particularly funny and really quote-worthy in my opinion. And that quote is, Donna says this first, and then the Doctor replies, "No stupid Martian is going to stop me from getting married. I'm not from Mars." I just really like that and there's like, you know, the whole Martian thing was sort of a running joke throughout the episode, and that really just made that joke in particular really funny to me, because that was the first time that she refers to him as a Martian or being from Mars. Again, I really like that. And now my overall thoughts on this episode, it was really good. It was fun overall. It was interesting to see the return of the robot Santa things. Other than the design choice of the Empress, overall I thought that the villain slash, the evil centered there was pretty well executed. And strangely, I didn't actually think that Donna's fiance slash husband was going to betray them. I guess I should have seen that coming, but I didn't, so just call me naive, I guess. But overall, I felt that it was a pretty good episode. It's hard to follow up from the end of season 2. And just overall, yeah, I mean, it's definitely above average. Not a great episode by any means, but a very good one, and one that I feel is a good lead-in for the 3rd season that I'll be starting very soon. And that leaves us, or rather that leaves me with a few questions for what's going to happen in season 3. First of all,
who is Mr. Saxon?
Secondly,
is every episode gonna have the Doctor moping over Rose? I mean, I'm sad about it too. I'm sad we lost her as a character, but come on, you're 900 years old.
And thirdly, who's going to be the next companion? Could it be Martha Jones? Possibly, I don't know. She's the one that I've actually been looking forward to the most since I actually started the show. But wait a second, what's the next episode called? Smith and Jones. Thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode of Discovering Doctor Who. Please leave your comments below letting me know about some of your favorite and least favorite aspects of this episode. Tell me really if there's anything you want to see from me in the 3rd season of Discovering Doctor Who. I mean, I'm really into this show, and I kind of like the format I'm going with, but I want to know if there's anything more you want to see from these episodes, or maybe something you'd like to see removed or shortened. Let me know what you think. And as I mentioned before, the next episode is going to be Smith and Jones, and I cannot wait to get into it. So everyone, I will see you next time on the next Discovering Doctor Who.